Hey everybody, it's Golmedex, and welcome back to another premiere draft of Modern Horizons 3. This is part of the Early Access Streamer event, so thank you very much to Wizards of the Coast for providing me with the Early Access promotional account you see me playing with here. Without further ado, let's take our pack 1 pick 1 rare. This is a very fun looking one. There's a 2 mana 1/4 that taps for a green, so already a very sturdy mana dork, but if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, it taps for quadruple green. This is probably one of the quickest ways to try to ramp out a giant Eldrazi finisher, and it has the Eternalize ability, so if it's in your graveyard, you can spend 4 mana to bring it back as a 4/4, and then it will be your power 4 or greater creature to tap for quadruple green. So that seems very, very solid and like a super fun way to start things off, going for some big ramp. Pick number 2, here's a big ramp card, the Territory Culler. This is a 5 mana 7/5 reach. Worst case scenario. If it sticks around, it has an excellent landfall ability. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, look at the top card of your library. If it's a creature, you can reveal it and just put it right into your hand. And if you don't put it into your hand, you can put it into your graveyard. So you get to surveil every time you play a land, or just full-on draw a card if you're hitting creatures. So huge, excellent kind of card draw engine while being just literally huge. A 7/5 for 5. So we take that, and that's a great card to ramp into off of the Fanatic. It's also power 4 or greater creature to help get the mana we need for like the big 10 mana mythic rare Eldrazi stuff, if we can find any of those. Pick number 3, there's a Priest of Titania, which would be a really fun one to draft around, but I really just don't think there's a lot of elves in this set, sadly, so it's just a 2 mana 1/1 that taps for green. Much worse than Fanatic of Ronus, unless you find a million elves. Twisted Riddle Keeper looks fine. Yeah, 8 mana 5/5 flyer, stuns a couple things is pretty good. Obviously, if you emerge it, you can cast it for cheaper. You sacrifice a creature and reduce the mana cost by the emerge ability, so that's pretty cool. Reiterating Bolt, 2 mana, sorcery, 3 to any creature or planeswalker, and if you have energy, you could even shoot multiple things with this. Seems like really good removal. I like the bolts or one of the green landscapes here. The Riddle Keeper also seems fine. I just think there's a lot of really good, like high mana value Eldrazi to ramp into, so you don't need to take them super highly unless they're like tremendously powerful, like one of the rares. Whir of Potential. Get 3 energy, then spend X energy. Each player can exile their hand and draw that many cards. So your opponent gets to draw just as many cards as you. That seems pretty bad. Voidcraw's really good, though. Tap for double colorless towards your big Eldrazi spells, and it is a mana sink that you can use to draw some extra cards. So green-blue ramp, where that card shines, and you've got a good start towards that kind of deck. Pick 5. There's an energy producer if we want to go energy to go with the Reiterating Bolt. Just sits there, make it energy, maybe drawing us cards off of its own ability. What is Estrid's Invocation? 3 mana enchantment, enters the battlefield as a copy of an enchantment you control, but you can flicker it. So copy one of your enchantments, then you flicker this and put it back on the board, copy a different enchantment if you want, or keep copying the same thing for the enter the battlefield effect. Seems a little too narrow. Probably got a good home in something in the format, but I'm just going to take the battle wagon there. Pick number 6. Take the Jund landscape, that seems fine. Fledgling Dragon can be really big later, so that's also fine. Or there is an Is It Energy card. Bunch of fine looking stuff. Pick 7. Little dragon to play if we're green-red. Serum Visionary, that's solid value. Draw a card, scry 2. That's probably fine if we're blue-green. Pick 8. Triple red is super hard to cast. You gotta be deep into red for that thing, but it's a great sack ability. 3 damage divided wherever you want it. Pretty cool. I think we're just more likely to play like the Eldrazi thing, Or maybe the Eldrazi spawn producing Glimpse the Impossible. One of these kind of things. I'll take the Void Pouncer. Pick 9, we have the Energy Axe. We've got the blue bounce removal, puts it back in the deck. Or we take something off color like a Dreadmobile just because it's scary. I'll take the blue mediocre removal. I just say mediocre because like it doesn't deal with it forever. Your opponent gets to redraw their threat played against you again. But it is still 1-for-1 removal because they have to spend the draw step picking it back up. It's not like you're down a card in that interaction. Alright. Well, if we play blue, red, and green for all the Eldrazi colors, then a blue-red duel will be helpful. I'll take that over the mediocre red or blue removal spell. Actually, there's a green-red duel as well, which will also be helpful. I'll take the green-red. That'll be helpful even if we are all three colors, just like the other one would be. But it would also be more helpful for just green-red, and I feel like green is the color we have the strongest spells in. We've got the least quantity of spells, but these are like just so strong. I'm going to try really hard to stick to green with Fanatic and Territory color. The Void Crawl also being great. So boop. There's a lot of multicolored stuff. Maybe Null Elemental Blast is main deckable. Probably not, but it's solid in the sideboard if you're playing best of 3 draft. Okay, pack 2, pick number 1. We got a 3 rare pack, but it kind of looks like they all suck. There's a Necro Bloom, which you really want to have 7 lands with different names for it to do much. Crick, which can be pretty close to Mono Black to do a lot with that. Aether Revolt, which I have no idea what it does. It's a 4-mana enchantment. As long as a permanent left the battlefield this turn, the source would deal non-combat damage to an opponent or permanent they control. It deals 2 extra damage. Whenever you get 1 or more energy, deal that much to any target. I have no earthly idea how to evaluate that card. I mean, it's a thing. Ghostfire Slice is probably better. 3 mana instant speed, 4 to any target. But Bridgeworks Battle's good too. The Ember Mage is a 4/4 that deals 4 to anything when it hits the board. There's some really good removal in that pack. Pack 2, pick 2. There's another Territory color out of green. There's also a Depth Defiler for blue-green. This has great enter the battlefield effects, and you can kick it to get both done sometimes. I think these are the best picks in the pack for sure. I'm going to grab another Kohler. I think this thing is just nasty. It's so big. 3. Skittering Precursor. Whenever you sacrifice a non-token permanent, you get another Eldrazi spawn. That's not going to happen too often in green-red. Like, we'll have non-token permanents dying, but not really getting sacked. I guess this triggers every time we use a landscape. Hold up, maybe we take this and draft landscapes really highly. Because it does trigger on lands. Oh, that's kind of sweet. Yeah, I could see Skittering Precursor here. Sink into Stupor seems pretty good as well. The Party Thrasher is a fun way to get some exile card draw in. And these cycling Eldrazi are nice and flexible. If you don't have the mana, you just cycle it early. But if you do, it's your big top-end doofus. Pick number 4. Take this completely on-color landscape incredibly highly, I think. Oh, Drowner of Truth, though, is so cool. It's a blue-green dual land and just a big top-end Eldrazi, whichever we need. But this is any of our 3 colors. It's all 3 of our colors. It's pretty huge. The Kozilek's Unsealing also a lot of fun if you have a lot of really high mana value creatures. You can try to pop off with this. Ideally, a lot of 7 mana value or greater. Yeah, I don't think Storm Drake's going to be super good. So you have to give your opponent a 3/2 flyer to use it. Pick 5. What do we got here? More landscapes, which are great with our Skittering Precursor, but we also have Propagator Drone, which is just really good with Eldrazi spawn in general. And green-red is a great color pair at spitting out a bunch of Eldrazi spawn. So if you have any Eldrazi spawn on the board, then when you play this, you put a +1/+1 counter on all of your Eldrazi spawn currently. Which is really weird that that's how it works, but that is how it works. The Eldrazi spawn have the evolve ability, and they see your 2/2 hitting the board, get the +1/+1 counter for it hitting the board. And then obviously playing any more creatures is going to make it really good, so I like that over Stump Stomp as I think the best competition, because I do like those dual lands that are spells as well quite a bit. Triple red just feels kind of impossible here, so I'm going to grab the fully on-color landscape again. Pick 7. Somebody's gotta somehow get Azlask to do its thing, right? The 5-color Eldrazi deck. Somebody somewhere is going to do it, and it's going to be glorious. But that person will not be us. We will not do it today. Let's take the Writhing Chrysalis. This is just a massive amount of stats for 4 mana, especially considering when you sack the spawns, you get counters onto the Chrysalis. Pick 8. Dreadmask is just kind of a big idiot to ramp into, but we're looking for another big idiot or two, so. Get the Colossal Dreadmaw that also can move around its power toughness later. So blue's probably just a splash at this point. We've got a really solid green-red core to this deck. I like Repurposer getting lower on the curve here. Ember Mage is definitely a good card, but I think Repurposer has great synergies for the deck, spitting out a spawn when we play it and when it dies. This is main deckable artifact enchantment removal, because we can also just use it to protect our big threat against anything, and there's a lot of artifacts and enchantments in the format. Pick 11. Split second combat trick. Cute. I didn't even realize this thing had split second. That actually makes it maybe okay. Usually it would be super, super mediocre, but maybe it's actually pretty good here. I'll try this out. We like Eldrazi spawns a lot. I don't think I'm trying the Mog Mob out, though. Pack 3, pick number 1. We have Warped Tusker. Pretty flexible. We've got another Repurposer. Just great stats. Another Dreadmask for the top of the curve. I think I'm going to take another Repurposer. I really like the Propagator Drone and the Chrysalis. These make these spawns just really aggressive if we can get them out early. Could also take another Reiterating Bolt. We're pretty low on removal, actually, come to think of it. 1 bolt, 1 slice. I probably do need to take a second bolt quite highly, even without any energy in the deck. We've got 4 sack lands here. They're all completely on color, so a second Precursor seems pretty nice. Hydra Trainer's cool. This Horrific Assault would be another removal spell, but Precursor's like just too cool to pass up for me. This is not on color. This is. We can just grab a forest with this. We just literally run this over a forest. That's another card for Precursor sacks. But we do have 4 potential colorless sources and a bunch of Eldrazi spawn in this deck, so I think Breaker of Creation is actually a very castable finisher. We didn't get into the Mythic Eldrazi, but this does a good approximation. It's very hard to kill because it's hexproof from every color. It's got Annihilator 2 to force them to chump with basically 3 things. They have to sack 2 lands and trump it, and it gains a bunch of life when it hits the board. The 4 toughness is the big issue with that. Super low toughness for the mana cost, but overall, I think it is a solid filler, a Johnny Eldrazi finisher. Where did that come from? It's not a Johnny finisher. All right, another Malevolent Rumble, I guess. These Wither and Blooms are just incredible cards in this format. There's a lot of creatures that trigger whenever you put a +1/+1 counter on them, so highly recommend these, but we are not black deck here. Pick 5. The Elk looks very cute in this deck. We can make one of our opponent's biggest, scariest threats a 3/3 with no abilities, or we can turn one of our Eldrazi spawn into a 3/3 for 2 mana, and then when that spawn dies, we still get the Elk left over afterwards, because that's how Bestow works. So I think Elk is going to be fun in here. Ooh, what a payoff. Pick 6 Titan's Vanguard. This puts a +1/+1 counter onto all of our colorless creatures when we cast it and every time it attacks. So that can really kill our opponent just with a bunch of Eldrazi spawn tokens even. So big fan of that. That is like perfect for green-red. Now here's a Nyxborn Hydra, I guess, to ramp into. Seems fine. It's pretty flexible mana cost-wise. You know, 3 mana 2/3, 4 mana 3/4, anywhere like that on the curve is fine. And obviously, if we draw it really late, then it's just massive. I'm going to slot it in at the 4 mana slot, though. We're running 4 lands right now, so this is 22 non-land cards and 4 lands. Could we be an 18 land deck here? We could be, but I think 17 is probably fine with the amount of Eldrazi spawn we have. So we just want to find one more really good playable to run, and if we find any more after that, we start cutting our most mediocre non-land card every time we take something. This does not look like any playables to me. We do not have any artifacts to try to get this out early, so it's just a big, super expensive Dargon. I'm not going to play an off-color fetch. Well, there we go. Husker's kind of like perfect filler. Fits in wherever we need it to. And I'm fine with that being the last edition, but we also hit another green-red duel. A green-red fetch land, I should say. So that makes our double precursor even better, which is great. And this deck has literally built itself. We have no options for what to cut. We're just going to call it a deck here. All right, here's a look at the final deck list for today. We're on a really nice Gruul Eldrazi aggro deck here. So we have a good amount of Eldrazi spawn production with a couple precursors, a repurposer, some stuff like that. Malevolent Rumbles are spitting out some spawn while we're doing things. The Chrysalis makes a couple spawn. And with all of those spawn, we can either buff them up and get a huge wide swing with cards like Titan's Vanguard, or we can sack them for mana just to ramp into these big top-end threats early with some Territory Colors, a Breaker of Creation, and a Warped Tusker at the top of the curve. So really solid-looking stuff here. We've got plenty of removal. We've got plenty of creatures throughout the curve. It's just going to be a nice, really standard, really solid deck today. So without further ado, let's head into the gameplay and see how it does. All right, here we are for Game 1 against NCAA, one of the top draft streamers, always at the top of the leaderboards. So this is going to be a battle for sure. Let's just make sure we get that red source ready so we can curve out starting turn 2 with Void Pouncer. And try to get the aggressive lead by being on the play here. Here's a Nyxborn Hydra. Should be solid later. Nightshade Dryad, just clear out the mana dork here if I've got nothing else to do with the mana. I do have a Propagator Drone, but I'm pretty fine with just hoping to top deck a land and going Chrysalis into Drone if we do. We don't top deck a land, we might Malevolent Rumble here, because no matter what I hit, I can drone off of the spawn. If I hit a land, I can then play the land and the drone, buffing the spawn, which is still pretty good. Alright, we hit a land, which is perfect. Let's go red source so I don't have to crack it, right? Yeah. Get the spawn. Buff the spawn. Send in the 3-power creature. They're down to 14. Ooh, we get the spawn when we cast the Chrysalis. So if we still have the Propagator Drone on board, then both of the spawn are going to have counters on them again from the Chrysalis. And the first spawn is going to be 2 power. Yeah, that's going to be insane, actually. Just do it, right? I think we just do it here. This is huge. Good grief. Alright, 3-1 trades into the 4-3. Dryad sticks around to cast some spells. There's the Colossal Dread Mask, but NCAA can only block one of our creatures, so we can just send in the whole board. Actually even just blow up the Dread Mask. Is that lethal if we blow it up? Probably not. If I blow it up and then evolve some stuff, maybe. Yeah, let's go destroy an artifact, save the rest of the mana for a 3-mana Hydra, and just see how much damage this is. 1, 2, boom. How much evolve is this going to be? Just 2 of them. Yeah, it's not going to be lethal, I think. But puts them to 4. Still real good, I think. Yep, there's the concession. Certainly close enough. They're going to have to deal with so many of our creatures to survive there. They basically need a board wipe. So we start things off 1-0, heading into game 2. All right, here we are for game 2. Just ramp it up with Fanatic of Ronus. This is an explosive hand. Good lord. Ronus into Chrysalis into Vanguard. If they don't have cheap interaction, this is like nigh unbeatable. They need like cheap interaction or some really powerful spells of their own. Get their own like ridiculous curve going. Dog Umbra, sure. There's the Obstinate Gargoyle. And here we go. Woo! We are just rolling in. Next turn. Then all the spawns are 2/3 if they don't kill the Vanguard here. They did have the cheap interaction. They had the Dog Umbra to deal with the Chrysalis at least. They're not like insta-dead. But they do need some good follow-through, some more cheap interaction ideally to deal with the Vanguard as well. Even if they deal with a Vanguard, I'll still be able to Propagator Drone the spawns up to 2 power pre-combat. If they don't deal with the Vanguard, then I make them 2 power pre-combat, then I attack in and they're 3 power. Oh yeah. This is gonna be good. Uh-oh. No, 1-mana removal? Ooh, yeah, the Bone Splinters. Sack a creature, destroy a creature with the Persist card. That's very, very solid. Collective Resistance. Well, that's pretty good against their deck. Now I can Propagator Drone. Can't escalate the Collective Resistance at all, sadly. Oh wait, I can with Fanatic of Ronus. I can escalate once. So I destroy one of the gargoyles and get hexproof indestructible. No, I destroy the Umbra and give hexproof indestructible here, I think. No, what about just destroy the Umbra and a gargoyle? That feels like the most damage we can do here. Target an artifact, the one that is not going to come back, and target that enchantment. Boom. And they have no good blocks here. They can just persist one of these. Up a little bit of damage. Refurbished Familiar, make us discard our Reiterating Bolt. Sadness. I don't think we want to top deck a land, so let's thin one out of the deck. Well, that's interesting. I need double colorless to cast it, so I'd have to sack both of my spawns. We certainly save that for post-combat. I guess if they kill one of the spawns, then I can't play it. Dang it. Hoping they would kill a non-spawn here. That means no breaker this turn. I just dump all my mana into Propagator Drone. Oh. I only kill one of these with this. I think I'm just going to sack it then to hit harder with the Chrysalis. Boom. Also gives me the 4 mana off of Fnatic there to get more Propagator Drone action going. So we can really easily play Breaker next turn. Alright. Now we can play it sacking a single spawn, so I'll definitely do that. That's a good auto pay. And there's a concession from our opponent. They are done with our Eldrazi nonsense. And we start things off 2-0 heading into Game 3. Alright, here we are for Game 3 against MTG Nerd Girl, part of the Magic Mike's podcast and a very prolific streamer. She's been doing it for years. I think we keep this, but like, it's awkward with only one creature in the opener. But it's got both of our colors, it's got at least 3 mana. Hard to convince me to mulligan when our mana is working for us. Alright, just flood a little bit, find another mana when we're looking for threats. Rakdos from Nerd Girl here. There we go, we found a threat. Happy to see that. Also gives me a good mana sink. Because my hand is all interaction, having something to do if she doesn't play anything important is pretty good. She's on Jund, starts with Expanding Ooze. That is important enough, I think, to just kill that here. +3/+2? +2 toughness is not enough for Void Pouncer to win the fight, but if she blocks, that's just good for me, so we just send in. Yeah, I would rather trade the combat trick into the ooze than trade the bolt into the ooze, so we get to have the bolt for later. Looks good. She's down to 12. Toxic Deluge. Well, that is a good one. Hexproof Indestructible does not stop a board wipe like that. A -X/-X spell gets around Indestructible, so that's a pretty big bummer. Man, Toxic Deluge is going to be a groan test in this format for sure, because you can pay exactly what you need to make it in your favor. Like, say you have like a 4/5 and your opponent has a bunch of aggressive 2/2s and 3/3s and stuff, you can just like pay 3 life and win the game on the spot. Yeah, this looks incredible bad. Chrysalis can be a 4/5 at instant speed, so we can't kill that with a Simulacrum or the Reiterating Bolt. All we can do is bolt the Chrysalis, and that just forces her to sack one of the spawns instead of saving it for mana for later. Yeah, no, that Deluge has really got us here. And we cannot find land 5 for the territory color. So our bad position is getting worse and worse. She is super stable here. Precursor and pass. Second Chrysalis. Alright, so they're both 6 power. Essentially. And we draw an 8 drop. Appreciate that one, top deck. Can't kill the Chrysalis. She can respond at instant speed by sacking Eldrazi spawns. There's the Oozewag. No green mana to buff that up, so at least I can Simulacrum that one. But we're going to die to these Chrysalises real quick. Oh, they have Trample too? Oh, because the Oozewag gives them Trample. Where are the lands, though? I can Reiterating Bolt the Precursor and try to rumble into a lands. A little bit of time. Do find a land. Need that bad. Alright, well. We're at 7 out of 8 mana for this Breaker of Creation, so if we top deck a land, we can try to get this on the board, and then try to get this Hexproof Indestructible when she goes for the kill on blocks. Fetid Gargantua was a huge piece of value there. It's a 3-for-1, because it's going to be a 6/6 on the board, plus she draws 2 more cards. Gotta take 2 life to do it, though, which is going to be painful. There is the land. So, play a Breaker and pray that she does not have colorless removal to kill it here, so that she has to try to kill it during combat, in which case we can indestructible it and get some decent value there, getting 2 Annihilator swings out of it before it dies. Alright, there's the Gargantua buff. The draw 2. What is this? Just make a bunch of Lurgoyfs, right? Whenever a Lurgoyf permanent's put into your graveyard from anywhere other than your battlefield, put it onto the battlefield. Whenever one or more creatures deal combat damage to player, create a Tarmogoyf. Oh my god. Well, GG. So, I mean, the Tarmogoyf tokens don't get to come back because they're tokens, but... Ooh. We can't just, like, chump here, but I also don't want to trade the Breaker off. Go to 15, and she gets a Tarmogoyf. She's a 5/6 right now. Catchy. Landfall trigger off this. Reveal it to put it in the hand. Get that Annihilator trigger here. Just try our best. We might just be dead on the crackback at this point. But Breaker's just so much of a better attacker than blocker. And it is going to kill one of their creatures here. Okay, cool. We get to kill the Chrysalis then. Kill the bigger thing. I guess it'll be just as big, right? Because now... Oh no, there's already a creature engraved, so the Tarmogoyf is slightly smaller than the Chrysalis. Nightshade Dryad. Ooh, Death Touch blocker to just kill the Breaker. Annihilator's still putting in work, though. Killing 2 of the lands was big. Oh no, a Cursed Marauder? Well, gotta sack the 3/3, get a spawn out of it. We've got a chump blocker. That is lethal attacks we have to block with something. Go to 4, probably. either of these get in, it's lethal. So if I top deck removal this way, then I win. So let's try to top deck removal. Oh no, she gets another Tarmogoyf, so I would need to hit some kind of double removal. Never mind. Chrysalis is big. Post-combat Chrysalis could be unexpected here. 3 blockers. I can also landscape and see what I draw off of that. If it's a 2-mana or less creature, it could matter. Two-mana or less creature, let's go. That is not a 2-mana or less creature, but I get to mill the land. So we clear out 2 creatures by attacking with both of these, but I think I have to only send in the Annihilator. She probably just sacks land, and then kills me on the crackback here. I think she can kill me through Chrysalis. 4 blockers, 4 life is not going to be enough here. We block 4 out of the 5 creatures. Well, 4 out of the 4 creatures. Maybe. Maybe a tiny shot if she's got, like, very little mana available. There's a Oozewag for trample. Big deal, but I don't think lethal. Incredibly close to lethal. But not quite, right? Because we do that. And then we have to do that and that. I can sack both the spawns so that this is 5 toughness. I guess I have, like, no crackbacks this way. Is there any way to get a crackback here? Any way to leave a creature around? I don't think there is. The 4 life, so trample, this is going to be 1 point of trample damage to 3. I mean, I survived this, but only with these creatures here. There's no way to go, like, spawn and not get trampled. So, we do that, and we have to sack there. Trample for 2, 3, go to 1. And she gets a Tarmogoyf and has 2 blockers up. Don't think we make it out of this one. But I do think we keep the other spawn, like, in case I find something to kill Oozewag. Creatures and planeswalkers only. Yeah, that is game. Just a little too slow on the start there. She got a lot of just huge value swings early, and that Mythic completely trounced us, all the Tarmogoyf value. If 0 Tarmogoyf tokens had spawned, probably could have just barely broken through and outraced. So 2-1, heading into game 4. All right, here we are for game number 4. We've got a solid little start here. We just get an Eldrazi spawn, then spawn our Precursor. If our Malevolent Rumble can find one of our fetch lands, that'll be really nice with the Precursor. And obviously we know our finisher here, the Breaker of Creation, so if we can get more spawns out of the Precursor, we're going to do that. Try to get to this Breaker of Creation early. Playing against blue, green, black, some combination of those. They've got an island and a swamp out now. Let's get ready to rumble. Twisted Landscape to the hand to go with our Precursor. Playing against IGN, by the way, the Internet Gaming Network. There's the Null Drifter, nice literal Mole Drifter there. Evoke it to draw 2. They bring it back later, they've got an Annihilator on board, and blue-black is a potential Reanimator color pair in this format. There's a Victimize uncommon that can reanimate things that is quite threatening if you reanimate a flying Annihilator that draws you extra cards. Luckily, the slice is big enough to kill it, because it's only 4 toughness. Quest for the Necropolis. So every time they landfall, they get quest counters on that, and that's another reanimator spell, actually. So they reduce the cost of the reanimation by 1 every time they play a land, so now it's 5 mana to reanimate something instead of 6. So that's going to be trying to reanimate the Knoll Drifter, and that's going to be pretty explosive if it does. No! Accursed Marauder, super annoying here. They get to sack a reanimation spell. We have to sack our Precursor. At least we get 1 spawn out of it before it dies, but we are sad about that for sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2 mana away from Breaker of Creation. It's going to take a couple turns to get there. We need to save the Slice to deal with the Knoll Drifter because they probably reanimate it next turn, so we just pass and take 2 from Marauder. Don't want to Reiterating Bolt that when that taps me out of Ghost Fire Slice. Age of the Unknowable, and they are not going to reanimate anything yet. Fair enough. Grab a Forest. Actually, maybe should have kept this in case our spawns die, then we won't be able to play Breaker anymore. Yeah, I almost definitely should have kept it. Well, here's Simulacrum for another way to shoot for 4. Another way to deal with the 4/4. That's the only viable reanimation target right now. Ooh, never mind. There's a Warped Tusker, which we definitely can't kill. A 6/8 is massive. Yeah, I didn't notice on our first reanimation deck the quest for the Necropolis thing, but that would have been sweet. Card seems very good. No, don't. Why you gotta print land destruction, Wizards? I don't want to play against land destruction and draft. Oh, so much for Breaker of Creation. That's nasty. Just exceptionally rude. Now the quest also only costs them 2 mana. So they can do that this turn as well and get their 6/8. Or they can just get the Annihilator card and draw another 2. This looks pretty unwinnable from here, honestly. It's just insane reanimation value coming up. Our start was super slow. Yeah, we can never in a million years kill that thing with our removal. Send in the Marauder. Alright, if they didn't have the literal only land destruction spell in the format, we would Breaker this turn, but they did, so we're on Chrysalis. Significantly worse, but not terrible. That was one of the best draws we could have hit here. Hello 6/8. Hello 3/3. Just a 6/8. I'll still have the mana to Breaker of Creation if I chump block this turn. don't hate it, but I'm about to gain a bunch of life off this Breaker of Creation anyway, so let's keep all these spawn around. We might need them more later. Worst case scenario, I can just like chump just as much damage. Okay. I mean, we're at the Breaker. We're going to gain a ton of life here. And we might get a decently stable board. Because they've got one card left in their hand. They used their only reanimation spell we saw. They don't, like, also top deck a Victimize or something. This is pretty solid. This is so wild. The kinds of crazy things that can happen in this format. It's the reanimation, the super far ahead, the land exile there, but then it's like just one big Breaker of Creation turn, gain a bunch, trigger the Chrysalis a bunch, and things are starting to look slightly less skewered here. Less tilted against us. Never mind. What is that thing? Exile their hand, draw 3. And it's a 6/6 flyer? Alright, well that's not horrifically bad, but it is bad. Like, I've got a 6-power reach blocker, so we're fine. And I could throw 2 removal spells at it to kill it, but I'm also about to play a 7/5 reach, so that's not the end of the world. It was a nice little 3-for-1 though. Get to draw 3 in addition to the flyer. They had to exile 1 card, so they had to discard this to draw 3, which means it's not quite a 4-for-1. They didn't get a Harrogast and 3 cards. They got a Harrogast and discarded a card to get 3. So only a 3-for-1 total. I actually really wanted to land here. That's kind of awkward. Yeah, Tusker's really awkward because it's uncastable. It is a 6/8 reach, which will be a good card to play. I guess I just like attack with Breaker of Creation, and if they only block with the Death Toucher, I can throw removal here, but if they block with stuff that's going to kill it through our Ghost Fire Slice, then we just let it die. But getting this Annihilator trigger is pretty good. Alright, they block with exclusively the Dryad, which means if we slice it, we can get another Annihilator next turn, which is a big deal, even if I'm just ripping lands out of there. Send in the 3/4 Menace, draw a card, discard a card. Turns it into a 4/5 Menace here. We can double block like this and hope they don't have something to kill the Chrysalis. I'm going to cycle the Tusker, even though it could be castable soon. Just hitting lands to go with the territory color is going to be big. So I'm going to draw the card and make the Chrysalis slightly bigger, make it slightly safer as a blocker. This thing is nutty, this Chrysalis. It's a huge MVP for MTG Neural Girl last game as well. Alright, there's their own Warped Tusker. Wait, how does that have a merge? Oh, all their creatures have a merge from their hand now. Okay. Wait, what is this? Where did this come from? Whenever you cast a colorless spell with mana value 7 or greater, you can exile it from your grave to return each non-land permanent you don't control to its owner's hand. I'm sorry, what? So you just discard or mill this early game, and then if you cast a 7-drop, your opponent loses on the spot? Each non-land permanent? Well, I guess we lose. All right. I still didn't have a land for a territory color. That's sad. Well, Ripperoni. That card is so gross. The 3-mana instant that bounces an on-land permanent. So it's not even like terrible up front. It's not even like it does literally nothing on the front half. Yeah, that's nasty. Alright. We got, but we'll let our opponent get the big swing in here. Absolutely toxic. Absolutely toxic. We could have kept the Chrysalis, but at that point, why? So I can chump block one card. 2 and 2 it is as we head into Game 5. Here we are for Game 5. This is a solid start if we can draw more lands, and we are on the draw to help do that. Nightshade Dryad for ramp from our opponent. We did hit 1 land minimum here. I just bolted that immediately. That wouldn't have been terrible. But if I bolted on 3, I might be able to send in for 2 this turn. Oh. Oh my god, why does that have 4 toughness? And when I target it, they draw a card? Or play a land for free? And that happens when they target it as well. So I get to like 3 for 1 myself to kill it. Or they just don't block and I just don't get to kill it at all. There's that too. Every time this is targeted by anybody's spells or abilities, they draw cards or play lands for free. And it's also a 3-mana 3/4 flyer. Oh, it's when any of their cards are targeted now? Not even just the bird? So our Reiterating Bolt just really sucks now. As do our attacks. So we have to pass there. There's the Adapt, get an Eldrazi spawn. Lion Umbra onto the adapted creature, which immediately draws them a land, puts it right onto the board thanks to Nadu. And they have a gigantic Vigilance Reach creature. There's an Idol to keep spitting out spawns. They can just sack a spawn, make a spawn, get a +1/+1 counter on the Idol. If it gets 6 or more +1/+1 counters, this turns into a giant annihilating threat. But now I'm just dying to a giant vigilant card I'm never going to be able to kill. It's got really high toughness, and green-red removal is all damage-based. It has a shield counter on it, too? Oh no, that's just the Totem Umbra ability. At least I can block Nadu now. I can also chomp block the Brood Scale. But we're still not really doing anything. Just sitting here trying to survive, barely. As long as we can. Alright. Alright, B. Now they're gonna give it, like, what, +6/+6 trample on top of everything else. And if I ever kill it, the first enchantment just falls off. I don't even think we can survive now. 12 trample power? The only way I can survive is by not killing Nadu. I'm just gonna send a message and kill Nadu anyway. But then I just die to trample. But whatever. This is just ridiculous. This is insane. Our hand didn't work out perfectly, but it didn't work out so bad that we like wouldn't have a shot against an average curve out from an average deck, but this was very explosive top end pretty quickly. And 2 and 3 it is. Always rough to 2-0 into 0-3, get your 3 losses all in a row. Would much rather have them spread out throughout the events, because I was feeling really good and really happy with this deck in those first couple games, and then super unhappy in the last few. But I also think we had some pretty bad mana draws in the last couple games as well. I think our mana base is reasonable. We're on 17 lands. A bunch of Eldrazi spawn. Maybe we should be on a full 18 land deck here because we have so much to do with our mana, especially with just really high mana value cards. But overall, I think this deck was pretty good. It just kind of underperformed a little bit with some rough luck. We got crushed by just a lot of really strong rares and mythics for the most part. I don't remember our first loss, but... Oh wait, yeah, I do. Yeah, because we lost to IGN for the second loss. Okay, never mind. Yeah, we just got crushed by rares and mythics every game. We got Toxic Deluged, and then the Tarmogoyf mythic from Nerd Girl, and then IGN hit us with Toxic Deluge again, as well as the Null Drifter rare, and the most important one was the mythic rare Cyclonic Rift for 0 mana. They just cast a 7 mana Eldrazi and also get to Cyclonic Rift us, to where they bounce our entire board back to hand, and it's like, alright, well, we're dead. So, IGN had, I think, the most bomb-heavy deck out of everybody we played against, but we just got destroyed by incredible rares and mythics there. And the final game, we got crushed by Nadu as the big rare, really demolishing us. But I guess even without the Nadu, they just had so much power from their giant auras. And Green-Red is just going to have a really hard time killing high-toughness cards, because Green-Red's removal is all this damage-based stuff. It's good at killing small cards, but not good at killing a gigantic aurified threat. So, just some rough matchups. Really explosive rares, and just archetypes where our color pair does not have the removal to deal with their stuff. So our rareless deck, well, there's one Fnatic, but our mostly bombless deck gets crushed by some higher quality cards for 2 and 3 as the final record. But that is going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons and YouTube members for their support, as well as you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it and you're interested in seeing some more, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you some more in your recommended feed. If you'd like to catch me live, you can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below. And if you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. But other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.